Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I beg to move that a bill entitled An Act to Extend the Terms of Office of Councillors and Aldermen elected in December 2019 to provide for elections in 2023 and to validate the actions of the said councillors and aldermen between the 2nd of December 2022 and the 18th of May 2023 be now read a second time. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I am privileged to stand here today to pilot the Municipal Corporations Extension of Terms of Office and Validation Bill 2023. The bill is short. It comprises 5 clauses to achieve 3 principal objectives: the extension until the 18th of May 2023 of the terms of office of all councillors and aldermen elected in December 2019 and whose terms expired on the 2nd of December 2022. Secondly, to provide for elections within 3 months of the 18th of May 2023. And thirdly, to validate the functions and actions of those councillors and aldermen between the period 2nd December 2022 and 18th May 2023 and until the commencement of this act for which this is the bill. Mr. Deputy Speaker, 2 significant circumstances have promoted the need for this bill and deserve appropriate reflection. The first is the mandate of this government to empower the people of Trinidad and Tobago to improve on their lives within their communities. The second concerns an interesting part of the history of this country and the considerations which have informed the passage of local government legislation and which serve to lend clarity to the approach which we take today. As to the first, the mandate of this government to empower the people of Trinidad and Tobago was expressed by the Honourable Prime Minister and has been placed on the record of this Parliament by way of amendments introduced in 2022 by this government to bring about a comprehensive reform of the Municipal Corporations Act 1990. That record exists, Mr. Deputy Speaker, in the Prime Minister's statement delivered in this House on the 24th of May 2023. And it suffices for me to say that as part of my pilot today, I entirely adopt and accept that statement as informing our considerations today for the passage of this bill into law. This brings me to the second point, Mr. Deputy Speaker. The second point of importance, the clarity and simplicity of this bill against the historical evolution of our local government legislation. That clarity promotes the passage of this bill today by a simple majority, so that the people's business may proceed, respecting this government's adherence always to democratic principles, consistency in governance, and respect for due process and the rule of law. Local government legislation in Trinidad, Mr. Deputy Speaker, started in 1927, when Trinidad was divided into 8 counties by the Division of Trinidad Act. County councils were established in 1945, with further legislative amendments and enactments in 1967 by Act No. 22 of 1967. In the consultations informing our constitutional ethos and development, and after independence, the topic of local government was addressed by stakeholders before the 1974 Wooden Commission, leading into the drafting of the 1976 Republican Constitution of Trinidad and Tobago. In 1990, Mr. Deputy Speaker, the Municipal Corporation Act came into force. Throughout, the law governing local government has remained under development, driven in particular by this government. As we know, further amendments of a novel nature were introduced by the 2022 Act, the Miscellaneous Provisions Local Government Reform Act, No. 11 of 2022. Here we are today, therefore, Mr. Deputy Speaker, with the benefit of the most recent judicial interpretations of the Municipal Corporations Act as amended, pronounced by the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council on the 18th of May 2023. The Privy Council accepted the Court of Appeal of Trinidad and Tobago's record of the historical evolution of this legislation up to the proclamation of Sections 11.4 and 12.5 of the Municipal Corporations Act. The Privy Council has held that the extension of the term of office of incumbent councillors and aldermen by 1 year constituted no violation of the Constitution of Trinidad and Tobago, but that B, that extension by amendment could not be interpreted as applying to the incumbent councillors and aldermen whose terms expired in December 2022. Assembled then as we are here today, Mr. Deputy Speaker, our task is simple. We accept the ruling of the Privy Council. We accept now that today we must provide with clarity for the period that has run its course since December 2022 to the 18th of May 2023, the date of the decision of the Privy Council, and up to and including the passage into law of the Act for which this is the bill. Mr. Speaker, in the decision of the Privy Council delivered on the 18th of May 2023, up to that time, the corporations continued to function lawfully and consistent with the provisions of the Municipal Corporations Act, and supported until then by the unanimous decision of the Court of Appeal of Trinidad and Tobago. This reality is put beyond doubt, Mr. Speaker, in the applicability, if it were needed, of the de facto officer doctrine, which is summarized in the authoritative text, Wade and Forsyth, Administrative Law, with your leave, if I may quote from the 9th edition, 2004, pages 285 to 286. And I quote, "The acts of an officer may be held to be valid in law, even though his appointment is invalid, and in truth he has no legal power at all. The logic of annulling all of his acts has to yield to the desirability of upholding them where he has acted in the office under a general supposition of his competence to do so." The incumbents, Mr. Deputy Speaker, continued in office initially on the basis of the view legitimately held by this government that the proclaimed amendments applied to the incumbents, thereby extending their terms of office from 3 to 4 years. This was plainly not an unreasonable view and was one held in good faith, since this was also the view of a unanimous Court of Appeal of Trinidad and Tobago. More directly, Mr. Deputy Speaker, the incumbents acted in their offices after the 10th of February, pursuant to the decision of the Court of Appeal, which held on that date that the 4-year term applied to them. It is plain, therefore, Mr. Deputy Speaker, that the incumbents acted under the general supposition that they were competent to so act, and the logic of annulling all of their acts has to yield to the desirability of upholding them. It follows then that despite the 18th of May 2023 decision of the Judicial Committee, the actions of the incumbents should be considered legitimate in the eyes of the law. The incumbents continued to perform their functions, and the state duly paid their salaries in exchange for their services. In addition, the wider public received the benefit of those services in the public interest. Indeed, there is therefore a case to be made that the government need do nothing to alleviate the uncertainty created by the decision of the Privy Council, that the term of office of the incumbents expired in December 2022. But that is not the way of this government, Mr. Deputy Speaker. There is a good case to be made for legislatively validating those acts. The public interest advantage of doing so removes any uncertainty which has been created with regard to whether the public may rely on those acts and decisions, and avoids the possibility of further or any uncertainty. This takes me, Mr. Speaker, Deputy Speaker, to the clauses of the bill. Clause 1, the short title. This act may be cited as the Municipal Corporations Extension of Terms of Office and Validation Act 2023. Clause 2, interpretation. In this act, councillors and aldermen means the councillors and aldermen elected in December 2019 in accordance with the Municipal Corporations Act. The rationale for that proposed clause, Mr. Deputy Speaker, is that it is intended that this act will apply to all councillors and aldermen who were elected on December 2nd, 2019, in accordance with Section 11 of the Municipal Corporations Act, Chapter 25, Number 4. Clause 3, extension terms of office of councillors and aldermen. The terms of office of the councillors and aldermen, which expired on the 2nd of December 2022, are hereby extended until the 18th of May 2023. The rationale for that proposed clause, Mr. Deputy Speaker, as we have already acknowledged, is the applicability of the de facto officer doctrine, based on public policy and in the public interest, so that this provision is indeed in obedience to that further public interest principle being introduced ex abundante cautela. The advantage of doing so, Mr. Deputy Speaker, is that it removes any uncertainty which has been created with regard to whether the public may rely on those acts and decisions, and avoids the possibility of any further uncertainty. It is in the public interest that the proceedings and actions of the local government councillors and those persons, members of the public who rely on them, should proceed with confidence and certainty. Councillors and aldermen are required, Mr. Deputy Speaker, to represent effectively the interests of the electoral district or municipality for which they are elected and deal with constituents' inquiries and representations. Councillors continuously work diligently and tirelessly to improve the lives of all persons in their community within the remit of local government. Local government responsibilities, among others, cover public health, municipal police, spatial planning and building inspectorate, disaster management, repairs and maintenance to government schools and specified public buildings, cemeteries and crematoria. Clause 4, Mr. Deputy Speaker, the period for 2023 local government elections. An election referred to in Section 11.1 of the Municipal Corporations Act for the year 2023 shall be held within 3 months of the 18th of May 2023. Mr. Deputy Speaker, the rationale for this proposed clause is incontrovertible. The proclamation issued on the 7th of November 2022, which brought a small number of the provisions of the 2022 Act into force with effect from the 8th of November, substituted 4 years for 3 years as the periods of office of councillors and aldermen. During the currency of the challenges brought in the High Court and the Court of Appeal, Mr. Deputy Speaker, the law remained in force. This government, led by the Honourable Prime Minister, Dr. Keith Rowley, fully endorses that local government elections must now be held so as to ensure the continuity of life of local government corporations for all the persons throughout this country. This clause therefore provides for the period being within 3 months of the 18th of May 2023, and that the writs of election shall be issued in due course by the Elections and Boundaries Commission. This ensures that each member of the public can exercise his or her rights in accordance with the Municipal Corporations Act to participate in the local government election. Mr. Deputy Speaker, Clause 5, validation. That provides that where the councillors and aldermen under Section 3 exercised the functions of councillors and aldermen between 2nd of December 2022 and the 18th of May 2023, and thereafter exercised the functions of councillors and aldermen up until the commencement of this Act, the exercise of those functions and all acts or things done pursuant thereto shall be deemed to have been as valid and effectual as if the Municipal Corporations Act expressly empowered them to exercise those functions. The rationale for this clause, Mr. Deputy Speaker, is to validate the functions and all acts or things done by councillors and aldermen for that period between the 2nd of December 2022 to the 18th of May 2023, and indeed until the commencement of this Act for which this is the bill. Mr. Deputy Speaker, the hard work, diligence, and daily achievements, the progression of projects vis-à-vis the use of plant, machinery, and equipment by the councillors and aldermen are recognized, did not go unnoticed by this government, and are therefore to be validated. Local government bodies have the responsibility for a number of different functions. Examples: the construction and maintenance of local roads and bridges, the construction and maintenance of drains and water courses, local health, general sanitation and rodent control, garbage collection and disposal, development and maintenance of recreation grounds, parks, and public spaces, development and maintenance of cemeteries and crematoria, markets and abattoirs, disaster management, building inspectorate, municipal police, collection and disposal of fecal waste, and distribution of truck-borne water in areas where there is no supply. These are all areas, Mr. Deputy Speaker, which fundamentally affect the livelihood and quality of life of the citizens of this country. There are 14 municipal corporations that form the local administration. These municipal corporations each have an elected council made up of councillors and aldermen. Councillors are directly elected by voters at local government elections, and aldermen are elected by the councillors. Mr. Deputy Speaker, this bill underscores the government's vision for an effective local government system to facilitate the transformation and modernization of local communities. The policy on local government reform approved by the Cabinet in August 2016 spoke to local government as the democratic representative of communities, bringing the communities closer to people than central government, and can be dubbed the voice of communities. The People's National Movement, which forms this government, will ensure that with the devolution from the Ministry of Local Government, municipal corporations report directly to the Ministry of Finance, particularly on fiscal matters, and are adequately equipped and resourced to provide quality service to their communities and to make and improve the quality of life for all citizens. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity to provide clarity and explanation as to the purpose and remit of the 5 clauses within this short bill, which has significant impact as part of the legislative package of amendments encompassing local government reform. I thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker, for this opportunity to pilot this bill. I beg to move.